So I heard some very smart people came together and spoke about economics, development, and stagnation, why Africa hasn't developed. Very smart people, world renowned. They've written books. And since the last time I spoke, when I said people were irresponsible for the way that they manage money and so forth, which got some people angry. And then that happened, we're at the phase where I am not needed any longer. There are others, which is fine. Economics, right? Economics actually has a background, right? It stems all the way from the hunter-gatherers. We all know this. And then tax, that's where politics came in. That was all economics. But African economics is different. Because African economics at the moment is not globally compatible. See, Africa is like an island. Namibia is like an island. It has the produce, but it has no use for the produce. See, you can sell something that you don't need, but that makes it less valuable. So when you turn it into an economic question, the other person just says, you know what, we'll have an alternative. We don't need you, and you're not in control anymore. That's how these deals go about. That's how they end throughout all the paperwork and all of that. That's how they go. So what does Africa actually need? Well, I already said it. Africa needs to become a proxy. China is willing to do so, but they have to do it on our terms. I'm willing to allow this. See, China is running out of land, and as they're running out of land, they're running out of things to do. We have a lot of land here. Let's meet both ways. Let's work together. Let's trade. Since trade isn't working with a certain, then trade will work with another. And not only that, but economics, right? The economy of trade works better when it's developing country to developing country. Here's the secret, one of the lies that the world tells us, that they are developing countries and they are developed countries. That's a lie. Why is there suffering in developed countries? They're still developing. We are all developing. But the question is need. What is needed? There's so much food that can be produced. There's so much this, there's so much this. What is sustainability? What is the importance of economy when people can be self-sustainable? And that's where material comes in. But now most material is being made free to an extent. As humans, we're being farmed. Applications, music labels, music royalties, music shows, sports, all of that. Investing in humans, as much as they get out, the little that they get out, primarily they are what's being harvested. And that's why we have amateur, we have professional. And I think this is a nice time for me to sort of put out that joke I made out there about people who would go to any extent to make money, including injecting themselves with female hormones and going to face surgery and trying to look like women, having fake breasts and stuff, and all in the name of pornography, because I don't care. Most of these people were actually technically gay, but they are willing to go to that extent. And every day I try to remind people that this is the industry that is tainting everything. And people still won't listen. They are making billions of dollars off of this stuff. Like, seriously. Kids can just go and watch and see, and if you just look at it, you see it's a black market industry that is unregulated. I read that they even have a award like they do movies. Anyway, that's a story for another time. But it's a weirdness I like to club up people with when they won't leave me alone. Let's get back to what we're talking about, which is important. Oh, and that was important because, like I said, when you say, right, for example, like we've decided to sue the people that won't let transgendered people use female toilets and so forth. But the thing is, the story of transgenderism is incomplete. It needs to be retold, not from an Einstein how to turn a man into a woman or a woman into a man, but from what it is exactly that makes the mind turn to that way. This is nature. It's all a part of it, and I think it should be allowed for it to be investigated. I mean, for now, they were talking about they can actually tell whether your child would be gay or not. Now, people will see these screws like, we don't care. But here's the thing. How can they tell? If they can tell, then they can tell what is the deciding factor. And like I said, we're all born female. And depending on our environment, which is in the womb, and the hormones, the organs turn out like that. But the one thing that's always there is the brain. And this does influence the brain. But there are more people that know more about this. Let's get back, back to economics. So economics has finally realized that poverty comes in variations. Poverty, food, poverty, health, poverty, energy, poverty, information, enlightenment, or as some who have monopolized it, who have made it something to sell, call it education. Education is the biggest ripoff in history, where they sell what actually propels people forward. They sell it to the highest bidders. If you're lucky, if you're exceptional, you'll get there. But if you're not, you're not. And that's why information redistribution is there. Let's get the best. Let's get the best to work with us, and let's put it out there. Let's simplify it. Let's break it down, and let's make sure a kid can put on their headphones and learn much more than they would have learned within an entire first year in a week. It's possible. I'm not going against the education sector or how it's made, but how it's old-fashioned. Like I told you, there used to be the process of mentoring. You make swords, and then you take someone in and you teach them how to make swords, right? So they become your student, so to say. But you couldn't have 50 at a time, right? So eventually universities came out, and they were for the privileged and so forth, and books were being printed, and now it could be recorded, and now you could take your book and you could learn all by yourself, and your lectures could help you. But that old-fashioned way of teaching still hasn't gone away, because people can learn in different ways. A lot of kids learned English from watching cartoons, literally, right? So the mind is much more adept to knowledge than most people would want, and the problem here is careers. It's what do you want to be? Do you want to make swords? Do you want to make shields? Do you want to make nowadays it's, do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a physician? Do you want to be a researcher in health? Do you want to be an astronomer? Do you want to be an ABC? And that is where economy comes into education, because at the end of the day, when you do attain that training, right, you end up making a living from it. That's where economy comes in. But the base of education is interrupted. It's interrupted before, right? There's a gamble in between where you don't know whether this person will get the job or won't get the job. So that bridge doesn't really exist. It isn't there in universities. They haven't evolved enough to start being literally, empowering by way of, don't just give someone a degree and say go search for a job, but make it easier. Create a test where they can be tested against their peers for how much they have learned. Are they deserving? This can be done in collaboration with a lot of companies, and a lot of companies are doing this, mostly in Silicon Valley, which is why they consider it odd how Silicon Valley hires people. But this is the future. And what better place to be than at a developing stage, when we're throwing away all the old traditions. So this was supposed to be about economy, but if you think about it, it is about economy. Because what is economy? What do you need money for? economy becomes sustainability. Sustainability, to sustain something. To keep it going. That's what economy becomes as at its base level. So how exactly do you then bridge that? How do you take the way we live communally as societies, right? And adapt a philosophy whereby core needs are taken care of. So there's economic development. And this economic development is not for gain, but for progress, because that's what we need, progress. That's what I'm after, progress, 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 progress. Regression makes me sick. Every time I read questions, every time I see what people are talking about, it's all regressive. And when they speak of progress, they want to speak of scientific progress. Oh yes, someone in a lab saw something which is meaningful by 0.0001%. But that's progress. That's not progress. Let's not look at scientific progress and technological progress and call it progress, because it's not. That's innovation. And innovation is making things easier. Innovation is not creating something new or creating a born something. I'll use an example. When the phone was buttons and the BlueBerry was the cool thing and the Nokia N70s were cool, and then Steve Jobs took away the screen and now we're touching our screens. Now we have apps. Pretty soon phones will be computers. Tablets are already closing the gap. Obviously the fight is for aesthetics, keep it thin, but they're getting ahead to an extent. The limitation they've reached is actually one based on a lack of technological imagination. And that means not using or pushing the same thing too hard, but trying to find an alternative and seeing how much of this alternative you can use. Alright, but that a lot of testing, and that costs money, and that is progress, economic progress. But social progress is not as much an economic conversation. No, it is an economic platform. It's creating, sustaining the needs, and then working upon them. So that's Wednesday. Yeah, because that's Wednesday. Never mind. Peace out.